Technology connects you, but you've never felt more disconnected. Caught up in your head and in your past, weighed down by worry, frustration, fear, disappointment. You do what you can just to get by. But what if there was another way? Is It Time to Love is a video series dedicated to helping you reconnect with your heart and live free of old beliefs, pain, ego, and judgment. Journey with beloved journalist Scottie G. Hines and spiritual teacher and Akashic Records consultant Lisa Wetzel as they help you uncover a path back to your true self. A path back to love.
Let the journey begin. That's what I'm hearing.
We're going to start with the question, why are humans created to live in love?
Humans were created to live in love because it was the creation of our beings that lie within each and every one of you. As you begin to find out that the love that resides within you is from us, it is us. It is our love, our compassion, our guidance that continually stays within each and every one of you to take you down your path and through your journey. When your life begins to hold the truth of who you are and who you're meant to be, you will begin to recognize that love fills you overwhelmingly. And when you begin to recognize that you can walk in your own footsteps with the life of another that lives in the purest form of love, within you, you'll begin to recognize that your footsteps begin to glow behind you. And so what I'm seeing is that, we have our physical body that we walk, and I'm seeing, like, I'm walking down the beach and you have footsteps behind you.
Mm-hmm.
But when you begin to recognize that there's another being within this physical body, which is the soul, that soul's love is what is so powerful.
Yes.
And so magnificent.
Okay.
And so
God, I'm feeling my soul right now. It's so wild. It's almost bringing me to tears.
It's an incredible feeling, isn't it? But when we begin to recognize that, the soul is really truly who we are, what I'm seeing is that this human body is walking down the beach, leaving the footsteps, and as you look behind, when you recognize that you're connected to the soul, those footsteps begin to glow. It's that high resonancy of the purest form of love that you leave behind. And which is actually fascinating, because what they're talking about is that, our vibration is around us always. And so the way that they're showing me this is that there's particles of this super high vibration that's the purest form of love that we leave. It's almost like it's shedding off of us as we walk. So when you walk into a room, you leave particles of that purest essence of love behind you.
Yes.
It falls off of you. They're laughing and saying it falls off of you like rain. And this is why it's contagious, and also why it's so important that we all recognize who we are and how we can affect others in this purest form of love.
And can you see that stardust falling off me right now?
I see it going everywhere, and it's like glitter. It's all just shining around and falling off of you. Yeah.
And that's the truth of who we are. Like, we all have that.
Absolutely.
And I read something yesterday. I stumbled across something that talked about our bodies are literally made of stardust. And we were talking about particles, and like our bodies and our souls, like those particles have come from stars. Like they've traveled through supernovas.
Mm-hmm. Not exactly.
Okay.
What the soul is created to do is to live in the existence of all that is. When you begin to recognize that your soul is the creation of all that is, it's the accumulated, it's accumulated energy of all factors of life and existence that come together as one whole. So it's almost like an atom, or something. It's a particle that has been created that have numerous aspects to it. So if you take something like, what I'm seeing is like it's a snowball, but it's made out of mud. And if you see a mud ball, then there's all forms of minerals, and it could have grass in it, it could have leaves in it, it could have all types of different particles that are in it that make it whole.
Okay.
The soul has been created from many, many different particles to have the understanding of universal consciousness, and is completely embedded within a human being so that they can live our journey that we choose for them. And this is what all need to understand, is that they are specifically created for the soul's journey. The human body is simply a vessel that holds the journey of the soul in order for it to grow so that it can move forward in the life pattern that we have created for that soul. The soul is the conglomerate of many different aspects of knowledge and wisdom that has been gained through many, many lifetimes. And as you begin to gain the understanding that your soul can guide you through the current or present lifetime, you'll begin to gain the understanding of how much wisdom lies within each and every one of you. And within this wisdom is that purest, highest frequency of love's consciousness. And this is God's creation. That was a lot.
That's wild. Yeah.
That's a lot.
And the body is configured and specially built to be able to hold that love, that God's consciousness.
Yeah, I like that. When you're describing that, I mean, you look at our physical bodies and you see the muscles and the blood vessels and the bones and the way that it was structured. And in the middle of it is the most precious cargo. And that's the heart and the soul. And it's that soul's container is like right in the center of all this protective covering that we have. And they're saying it was specifically designed so that it could hold the container of the heart's soul so that it could move forward and experience physical activity in a way that it cannot do in the soul's form.
Wow.
Like that.
Without the body, there's no way that the soul could experience the natural world in this way. There's no way that the soul could experience the mysteries.
If the soul didn't have a specific form, like a solid form, because remember that, a soul is also in plant, everything that's living. If it didn't have that physical form to exist within, it would be a simple breath of air. And I'm saying like it would be like a wind.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be able to stand firmly on the ground or on the earth.
Okay.
It would blow away.
Yeah. Thank you, bodies. Thank you, bodies. How and why has the universe been created to live in love?
The universe was created to live in love, to create the connectivity of all beings. All that exists within the universe and multiple galaxies are connected as one. As you understand how in the human nature you are connected to universal consciousness is spread throughout numerous galaxies to create the interdependence upon one another. When you understand that this interdependence is meant to allow one another to reside in peace and harmony so that all can be accomplished, you'll begin to gain the understanding of why this is important to live in solitude, in love, in that present moment.
Okay.
So what I'm seeing is that solitude, again, is that point of not being influenced by negative outside or outside forces that can create chaos. So solitude is that interdependence of standing in the truth of that purity of love without any outside forces coming in.
Okay. So that's the safe haven.
That's the safe haven. Yeah.
that's the space or the place that's always available to us.
Absolutely. So what I'm seeing, and this may not answer your question, but as you're talking,
Yeah.
what I'm seeing is that our universe, the universe that holds all our planets,
Okay.
that this space, there's galaxies all around us, and this universe has connections to everything that's far beyond what we know and what we can comprehend.
Yeah.
But in every single galaxy, there's another universe that's just like ours. And there's guidance and there's superior beings that control and conduct those aspects of business as well. So that's interesting. So it's almost like they're laughing. They're saying, okay, let's look at FedEx.
Okay.
So FedEx has a main office. But they have offices all around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So they have offshoots of a main office.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a main universal consciousness that shoots off to all these different other galaxies. That main consciousness is not in ours. It's far beyond what we can ever understand.
Yes.
And so there's like an overriding corporate office that has to control everything around it, all of the intricacies of connection that hold everything together. And so this is why it's important to recognize that your universe is not the only one. Mm-hmm. So the existence of what we have placed upon this earth is instrumental in the survival of all that is. If you begin to gain the understanding of why we are so insistent upon you as humans to recognize the way you play an intricate part in all of existence is so important, that you succeed in order so others will not fail. What the message is that we are trying to give you today is that you exist in the purest form of love so that you can coexist within all that's in existence. It's not simply just the earthlings. It's not simply just the earth. There are so many other factors that are involved that you can't comprehend or understand. But you are just a small part. And if you recognize, so what I'm seeing now is an ant, like an ant farm, an ant hill. And if you look at the ants, if you look down, you only see the physical body of the ant. You don't understand the intricacies of the role each ant plays. You recognize that each ant has a specific duty in going and gathering food or building the bridges in order to survive. When you begin to recognize that you are like an ant, just like a simple ant, you'll begin to recognize that each specific ant has a specific duty in order for the colony to survive. And this is what we're saying to you. Not only you as a specific individual have a role to play in the ultimate outcome of who we can become, you are the intricate part that allows it to survive. You have to play the game and follow the rules in order to be the winner as an end result. So what we want you to understand is that our hearts are intentional for you to all succeed. We never exist or want any human being to fail in their venture of life. Life is to succeed and to be harmonious. When you begin to understand that we put you on the earth for a specific reason, you'll begin to recognize that your life is valuable and you serve purpose to all. Regardless of the duty or the job that you've been assigned on the earth at this time, you're an intricate part in all that exists. We cannot survive without you.
Lately, the shift for me has been, I'm connected to Lisa, I'm connected to these plants, I'm connected to the ant. They're looking back at me and smiling in awe. And just like I'm doing the same with them. But now, like what the information that's coming through right now, it's like I'm moving, I'm feeling myself moving beyond that into a place that I have no recognition of, at least in this physical body. What's coming up for you is? Do you remember
All I'm
anything
feeling
you
right
said?
now is love.
Yeah.
My heart is just beautiful white light, and recognizing that we as humans so live in our heads and live our lives due to a pattern that was created for us by other humans, that we don't recognize what our heart, and that we have the soul, and we don't, that it's here for a reason, and that we can't see further than what's specifically just in front of us,
Yes.
and what our eyes can see, and we see on the surface level, and our comprehension can't go any deeper than what we've been told or what we can see with our eyes.
Yeah.
And when we can truly understand that there is so much more to the existence of me as a physical being, and the purpose and the play that we have with the galaxies that are so far beyond what we will ever know or ever comprehend, is humbling. If we could truly understand as humans that we are not what somebody created us to be, such as we put a label on you, so this is who you are. You're a doctor, or you're a homeless person, or you're a millionaire, or you're a good person or you're a bad person. You are not that. You are this universal being that's been created to be on this earth at the specific time and live your journey from the truth of who you are. And regardless of what my life is, regardless of what the path is that I've taken, regardless of who my parents were or who my children are or who my friends are,
Yes.
I am this being that was truly meant to be here for a very specific purpose. And it was to be here, to be the child of my parents, to have the friends that I've had, to have the circumstances and the relationships and the good and the bad. It's all a universal plan. And my job is to recognize that I am holy. I am one. I am connected to all. I am not just a physical body. And what defines who I am is not my mind or another's beliefs. It's this. It's that soul. It's the soul's knowledge. It's the soul's wisdom. That's who I am.
Okay.
I'm an infinite, bountiful, beautiful light. And this is who I am.
I'm
as
an
a human
infinite,
being.
bountiful, beautiful light, and this is who I am.
And this is who I am.
Yes.
Regardless of what I look like on the physical,
Yeah.
and regardless of the labels that have been put upon me.
And is our journey, is that something that's written in the stars?
Your journey has been selected for you specifically due to the needs and the desires of the soul's growth. And I'm hearing contracts again, and we've heard the contracts before.
But there's wiggle room.
There's because we have free will.
Yeah.
That darn mind. So we as humans have free will to take whatever path or go in whatever direction we choose to do.
Yeah.
But the soul's agreement in what has been created for it is known amongst all. Okay, so when you go back to the creation of the soul's path is created in the stars, and the stars are us. It's the Akashic field. The Akashic field is what creates...
Stars are when you say the stars are us. These are the Akashic Records saying the stars
it's the
are
energy
us.
field.
Okay.
So what we call the stars is the universe.
Which is where we come from.
Right. Which is it's that
Where
energetic.
all things come from.
Yeah. So it's the consciousness of the universe.
Okay.
Basically, but we talk about from the stars because we can visually see stars.
Yeah.
Stars are something that we could recognize as a place.
Yeah.
Stars are something that we could recognize as a place.
When I look up at night, well, it doesn't even have to be night. But when I look up and I take a breath, I can feel myself breathing in home.
Yeah.
I can feel there's something within me that recognizes that, and and it brings me to tears.
Yeah. But recognize what you're breathing in is the energy field. It's not the stars specifically, it's the energy field that surrounds the stars that you're recognizing as home. Okay. And that's the Akashic field. It's where you go back to ultimately. Okay. So what we want you to understand is that each soul's contract is created in the Akashic field. So what we want you to understand is that the soul comes to a board of directors.
This is getting good.
Now, the board of directors is what we call the guidance of all. So when each soul has come up with the agreement of what their path will be, then the assignment has been given. So what we want you to understand is that the soul's pattern is to create the existence of who and what that specific journey needs to be and how it should be created. The guides of the Akashic Records give the guidance to the soul of what steps to take. We have many, many outlets that create the existence of what is needed for each specific soul. So when you understand that our guidance is given to a multitude of different objects and beliefs and understanding, then you'll begin to gain the understanding how we perpetuate the service that is needed in order for the soul's growth. When you understand that your soul has numerous helpers, as it is to gain the understanding of what is meant for its path, it always needs assistance. If you recognize that you can go back to the journey of the airplane, the pilot, and the control tower, we are that. We are that control tower that is looking at all of the objectives that needs to be accomplished within each individual specific life. When we see that a path is specifically needed for one specific soul, then we create the journey that is needed for that soul to accomplish that mission. That is our specific job. Our job is to guide all that is needed. We put all of the obstacles in place that are needed for the soul's guidance to conduct the human behavior so that it will follow the pattern that is needed.
Wow.
Are you getting all that?
Yeah, the Akashic Records are the ones who create the obstacles, like the experiences.
Yeah. So what a lot of people don't understand is they look at the Akashic Records and think, well, they hold all the memories.
Yeah.
Well, they do more than that.
Okay.
They are the ones that create the plan for the soul. So the soul goes to this board, the board of directors, and says, okay, this is the journey that I need to have in order to get to the end.
Yeah.
So that's when the contract begins. So the board of the Akashic Records, those guides, the masters, have an agreement or a contract with that specific soul. So the plan is made. Mm-hmm. So the way that I see it is that it's more or less that there's like a control room. Like you can remember, I don't know if you're old enough, but back in the day when the rockets went to the moon, and they would show on the TV all the people that were sitting in front of all the different computer monitors, and they had like the big screens. Yeah. And everybody had a specific job. Mm-hmm. And they would monitor everything that was going on with the spaceship. And so all of the mechanics, everything that's going on, these people at the computers had these specific jobs to make sure that nothing failed. And if something failed, how to fix it.
Yes.
This is the Akashic field. This is the Akashic Records. So when we talk about they know everything from the past, the present, and what can happen in the future, it's because it's all written out in that Akashic field. It's the plan.
Okay.
So when a direction is needed for the soul to go, a certain person needs to cross the soul's path so that they can have the experience. The Akashic Masters are up there on their little computers or the devices saying, okay, get Bob to go right here. He needs to go down the street in front of the Walmart so that Mary Sue can walk in the other direction. Okay, you guys. Now, how do we get them to do that? They're the signals that attach to all of the lower level guides so that the lower level guides can take you take the human body, push them on the shoulder, nudge them, get them to go the different.
And who are the
in their
lower
ear.
level guides?
There's all of them.
Okay.
So, meaning the angels, the spirits, everything that's around you, that speaks to you, that talks to you, that nudges you, that helps you, keeps you on your path.
Okay.
But the Akashic field is the control tower.
Okay.
It's the one that makes everything happen because it's the one that holds the contracts.
Okay.
The agreement of your soul was all made there.
Mm.
And people don't get that. They don't understand how significant that this specific field of energy is, not just tapping into what your history is. It's the existence of everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's the control tower. It's why this is why it's so important for us to understand that we can mess up the whole universe because the Akashic Records is watching it.
Mm-hmm.
It's seeing it. It's knowing what's happening. And so that's why they're saying, okay, all of you old souls, all of you souls that have all of the knowledge and the wisdom that can change and influence a human's behavior, it's time for you to go back to Earth. We're calling you all in because we're watching what's happening and we can see everything. We see what's happening in the future. So all you old guys, get down there and get these humans to behave. So then they call in the forces.
Okay.
And they get everything that's needed in order for us to survive. So there's the story.
Okay. I don't know where we go from there. I don't know.
It's a lot of information.
Yeah. Let's talk about life. Life. Why has life been created the way that it is? Why is life the way it is? In order for us to deviate from our soul's path and purpose and the truth.
Human nature created the life that currently is, and what we've done and what we have instigated is a different path. You have not followed. You have not followed well. The point is that you as humans have created violence, hatred, and anger, which was not our intention. We did not want to have superiority over one another. You were truly meant to be equal on all levels. And no one is to exist with a higher level in a hierarchy, basically. And I'm seeing like the pyramid, and the person that's at the peak of the pyramid is the highest rated individual. He's the one with the most power. This was not our intention. Human greed created this. The power over one another was a human creation, not our creation.
But is this the first type of experiment of this sorts, like Earth? Like hasn't this been duplicated in other universes?
It has to an extent with different results. We have found that the results that have resided within other universes have been similar, but not quite the same. The human species on Earth has derived or come to a conclusion that they are power. They don't recognize that the power that we give them is all sustaining. It is the truest and the purest existence of what resides within each and every individual. What you can recognize is that the spiritual belief of most individuals has been complicated by the human version. So what we want you to understand is that this was not our creation.
When you're saying human version, are you talking about?
I'm talking about all religions.
Religion, yeah.
Spirituality, the guidance that the stories that were created by humans to control one another's behavior was not our intention.
And that's the perpetualization of the story of good versus bad, right versus wrong.
And of good and evil.
Yeah.
So really and truly, we as humans, we look at specific religions with certain eyes, and being created by man. But it's not just religions. It's our everyday life. It's the belief systems that you're supposed to be a certain way. You're only a person of stature if you make a certain income or if you have a certain title. This was man-made. It's a belief system. So any type of religion just happened to turn to that spiritual concept to create this belief system that we as humans are menial to the all-powerful God. That's not the way that it's intended to be. God is equal just as you are. As you have God within each and every inch of who you are, it's the balance between the universe and human beings. This is all of equal footing. You simply have us as guides and as structure in order to move forward. Once again, we would like to insist that no one is better than another, because we have a tendency to put religions as the bad guys.
Yeah.
And that these different forms of religions are controlling us in certain ways or putting certain belief systems, but it's our everyday life.
Yeah.
Don't narrow it down just to a specific religion.
Right.
It's who we are as humans. That's where we've messed up.
Part of me that wants to make us bad, like we've done something wrong.
No.
And that's not what we're saying.
It's the construct of the human mind. Okay, so the human mind is at fault. We gave the human mind too much power in the human body as to where the ego was created.
Okay.
And then the ego is what started the division.
But the ego, like the mind, are both are useful tools.
They are in a way. Okay, so but
why was the ego created then? Like, I don't understand. Like, if it is that another defect?
The ego was created only to suffice as one's existence in order to help one another.
Okay.
Not to destroy.
Got it.
So when you begin to recognize the constructs of the mind is necessary as it's the mechanics of the robot. So the mind is what makes everything move. Mm-hmm. We're the robots, and the mind is the conductor. Mm-hmm. Basically, it's the mechanics. It's like an engine. It's the engine of the body.
Okay.
So you have to have the mind in order to function. It's necessary. Mm-hmm. It's part of this miraculous being that was
And what
created.
About the ego? The ego is necessary?
The ego is not necessary at this point. No longer is the ego needed or made to control one another. The ego was a fault or a byproduct of what the mind's thoughts have created. So it's like everything in your mind, as we started to process and begin to function, put things in place. And what I'm seeing is like Einstein creating these different things. The mind is important, it's significant. But where the mind faltered was creating the emotions of ego and greed and pride and prejudice and all of Pride and Prejudice. Mm-hmm. Isn't that a movie? But all of those aspects that the ego has created to control one another is where we faltered. Mm-hmm. So if we would have stood in...
So when the ego's in the light, when the ego is healthy, when the ego is in love, what is... Describe the ego for me when it's in that.
Bliss.
Okay.
Bliss. So recognizing the aspects of the ego's mind to be destroyed or disseminated, basically it's dissolving. And what I'm seeing is that it just disintegrates. Mm-hmm. When you can recognize that control part of the mind, the viciousness and the evilness that has been done to one another due to the ego's greed, that's when you begin to recognize that the ego is faltering at that point. The ego simply serves as a device to control a human being or in their human behavior. It creates belief systems that can be false, that we wish no longer to be true. Mm-hmm. And this is where the ego fails.
Does it also produce beliefs that are true?
Yes. Okay. It can. But it has to you as a human have to recognize that the truths that are true, what the ego holds on to, has to be filtered through the brain. Mm-hmm. So as the brain processes a specific incident or feeling, it has to transition into the proper form. if it doesn't transition into the proper form, then the ego grabs onto it and then begins to build in the negative nature. Okay, so
I'm seeing myself as a hollow bone. Where before, I very much identified with being an emotional trauma hoarder. So it's like negative, positive, whatever the story was, I'm going to hold on to it. I imagine that was my ego, right? The ego was holding on to it based in fear.
Because it's a belief system.
Belief system.
Yeah.
Again, now I'm seeing like your shirt, like this just like water that's flowing through me, and it positive, like it doesn't matter what it is. It's like I'm not interested in holding on to any of it anymore.
Correct. So the more you can become a filter of these thoughts and these emotions, and simply just walk in the truth of who you really are, then the ego is going to dissolve, and then your mind will only process what you need. And those false beliefs begin to fade. So basically what they're saying is the false beliefs are held in that ego status, that ego state. And it's like I'm seeing it like this little ball. And all of my belief systems are going into this little ball, this little ego.
And is the ego attached to the mind? Is the ego a part of the mind?
It's like it's a separate energy force.
Okay.
And so that energy force can be dissolved. They're saying that you will always have the fight or flight part of your way of thinking. You will always, in your mind, you'll always have the function that is needed in order for you to be a human.
Okay.
That's always there. But what the ego has done is it's created a belief system that you are separate from all that is, that you're an individual as a human being and you're not connected to the universal consciousness. You're just who you are. And when you begin to gain the understanding of how that separateness has come from the ego's beliefs, you begin to recognize how important it is to dissolve those systems.
Okay.
So I have people ask me a lot, or they tell me, that we can't survive without your ego, and it's simply not true.
Yeah, that's what
It's
I've
not
been told.
true. Yeah, that's not true.
Okay.
Everything that is, they're laughing and saying, go back to the days when men were created. They didn't have egos, and they survived just fine, as we are. How many thousands and thousands and millions of years later, here we sit.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Akashic Records.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's pivot. What's happening to the human race right now?
They're laughing and saying they're getting shook up. And I'm seeing like a little doll, and it's just getting shaken, and they're going, how'd you like that?
Can you do that again, please?
What we're asking you to do is to recognize that we have intentionally ripped the rug out from underneath you. We are shaking you up to reevaluate and look at the lives that you've been given, so that you can recognize that the truth of who you are is much more than what you can presently see. The timing and the exact messages that you are hearing at this time is for you to understand that you are much more than what you can conceive yourself as a human being. You are a spiritual being within a human body, which is cliche and which is what you have heard many times before. But how many of you actually truly know and understand this concept? So what we're asking you to do is to recognize that if you can truly understand that you have been created to serve the soul, and the soul is who you are, you'll begin to recognize that your mission as a human being, as the soul has nothing but love, care, and compassion that exists within it. It has the capacity to fill you, the human body, and clean and clear your mind of any unneeded or unwanted thoughts, so that you can stand truly, purely in the peace of who we are and what we have created for you.
So would they agree that we are in an initiation? It feels like it's creating a fertile ground for so much is dying, but within that death is new life.
We're in the conclusion,
which is the beginning.
It's the end.
But the end is always the beginning of something new.
Well, yes, it's
It's
the
the
end.
completion.
It's the end of what once was.
Okay.
And we're walking into a new field and experience of life.
Okay.
Peace and harmony.
Yeah. We're in that really uncomfortable stage where we're having to let go, or we're getting the choice.
Yeah, it's a transition. It's a transition state of moving into a newer level of consciousness, which they're laughing and saying, "That's what we're talking to you now at this point, because it's time."
Okay.
It's time to recognize that you are much more than what you've been created to be. And so what we're doing is we're ending one way of living. They're laughing and saying it's like the Stone Age. It's like all these different ages that you look back through history, and there was the Iron Age, there was the Stone Age. There's these different divisions, and they're saying this is the new creation. And you humans have labeled these stages in numbers. So what we have created for you is we're raising the frequency and the vibration of the universe so that the universal consciousness can shift to a higher level of understanding that it once was. So when you as humans have created the term the third dimension, which is the superficial level of understanding, you have also recognized that this dimension is ending, and it has shifted into a newer level of understanding that you call the fifth dimension. We call it the higher state of understanding. And so where the transition is occurring is that the third dimension is concluding. They're in the conclusion state of who they once were, who it once was. So humans are shifting and changing to have a newer recognition of who they are in this newer form of energy. So what I'm seeing is that, what we as humans have done is created a path of destruction. And so we've created this pattern of destructing each other, destructing the earth, destructing belief systems, in the fact of pushing people to believe more of the darkness and the negative instead of that purity and the connectedness of all. It's that separateness of I am man.
Okay.
And so at this point, the universe, our guides, have watched us self-destruct. And so we've gotten to the point that they've said enough. Enough is enough. They're laughing and saying it's just like scolding a child. You have been bad long enough, so now you're going to go sit in the corner.
Okay.
And we're going to change your behavior.
Okay.
So now we're getting scolded, and we're having to look at our behavior and recognize that I don't want to sit in the corner. So I'm going to listen, and I'm going to trust.
Yes.
And I'm going to move on. So this is where that division is. So the ending, the conclusion is of that behavior of destruction. And so now that we're getting punished,
Okay.
and
We're not really being punished.
No, but it's the universal way of punishing us.
Yeah.
Of putting us to the point of really looking.
It's stopping us in our tracks.
Evaluating who we are
Yeah.
and what we believe.
Yeah.
And so it's the transition into this new belief system of recognizing that we are connected.
Okay.
We are all one.
But this is what it's coming full circle here, where I like to put my guides, I like to put spirit, just like I like to put other people on a pedestal, and it's not true.
We're all equal, and that's what the hardest thing is, because this is what humans have created. That there's somebody that's always better than us, and there's somebody that's always less than us.
Yeah.
It's a human belief system where everything works in congruence. So they're laughing and saying, you need us as much as we need you.
Yeah.
It's not a hierarchy.
Right.
It's the point that it's just like the ants. They're showing me back to the ant farm. Now there's the queen ant, but the queen ant is basically that that serves as the nucleus of what needs to be done. So that's where the knowledge is held. And that queen is what puts the tentacles out, or that energy patterns, the messages of, okay, in order for all of us to survive, you, Bob Ant, you have to go do this.
Get it, Bob.
Jimmy Ant, you have to go do this.
Yep.
And when all of you do everything that we need done, then we will all survive. We're all equal, we just have different jobs.
Yes.
And that's where that's where we've gone awry, is
Yes.
what they've said.
Okay.
Is because the humans have put all these things on the pedestal, or you're less than, and so your existence upon this earth is not relevant. But because I'm who I am and I'm standing on this pedestal, I am relevant. But because you're down here, you're not. And that's not the way that it works. That's not how the universe is meant. Everything is coherent and works together. And your life is just as important as my life, because you're serving a specific role just like mine is. So we're equal in the universal understanding, but our minds and our belief systems have created that difference.
Yes.
So when we begin to speak to you as individuals and we give you the guidance to follow your heart, we plead upon you to please listen to what we have to say. Allow us to guide you into the direction of the purest, most wonderful, peaceful vibration and existence that any of you have ever dreamed of. You can obtain this peace and beauty within each and every one of you, and the life of existing within peace upon the plane of the earth if you choose to do so. You simply have to ask for our help and for our guidance, and we will be there to help you take the steps that are needed to take. But when you recognize that you're resisting or fighting against us, we plead with you to open your mind, open your ears, and open your heart and listen to what we have to say. The gains of this life will be of most benefit. If you continue to stay in the pattern and the way that you are at this time, you will only have heartache and disbelief, meaning that they'll continue to have things that will happen to us to break us down so that we will search for a different way of living.
Yeah.
So again, this is how we're punishing you, so that you'll reevaluate
Wake us up.
who you are. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they're saying, and sometimes it's the only way that humans will listen.
Yeah.
Is that you have to be on your hands and knees saying,
Yes.
I need help.
Yes.
And we won't shift or change until you get to that point.
We have to ask.
And you don't have to ask, you just have to recognize.
Okay.
But you can ask.
Yeah.
If you are to that point of how many times have we said, God, please help.
Right.
If you have to get to that point, get to that point. Just ask. When you get to the point of where you can ask, that means you're thinking about listening. If you continue to stay in your mind and you hit your head against the wall over and over and over again, nothing's going to change, because you still have the same belief system. You're still following the same patterns. You're not doing anything different. So when you finally get tired of living that way, and you get down to the point to where you're on your hands and knees and say, I can't do this, I need help. There you go.
Yeah.
You've just opened the door.
And the steps will be revealed to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But you also have to be willing to listen. So it's breaking that pattern of you hitting your head against the wall and keep doing the same things over and over and over again and staying in that same train of thought or that same behavior. You have to change. You've got to do something different.
And slow down and give your mind a rest.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, are you complete?
I think we are.
Okay.
They're saying amen.
Amen.
And thank you for your time and your effort in listening to what we have to say today. You're welcome.
You're so welcome.